Becoming an unschooler. First, there is the logistical question. How do you legally quit school? It turns out that this isn't too difficult from a legal perspective. Legally, you will be considering yourself a homeschooler. Homeschooling is the legal mechanism for unplugging oneself from the school system. Every state and country has different laws on what the requirements are to legally classify oneself as a homeschooler. You can get more state-by-state details at responsiblehomeschooling.org, reference 102, or on the Homeschool Legal Defense Association website, reference 103. Be sure to check with these groups, as asking your public school administrators can often lead to false information. This doesn't mean they intend to lie to you, but many are told incorrect information in an effort to retain more students. If you want to quit school but still participate in extracurricular activities, like your school play or join a school sports team, you'll want to contact your school to ask about what restrictions there are on you participating in extracurricular activities at school if you were to disenroll. Different states and different towns have different policies on whether this is allowed, so you will have to check out the local laws. But remember, all rules and laws can always be changed. If this is something you are passionate about, fight for change. Homeschoolers in many states have come together to advocate for the right to play on school sports teams. For example, the state of Tennessee changed its policy to allow homeschoolers on sports teams in 2012, and Ohio followed suit in 2013, reference 104. Ask your school administrators what their policy is and who decided on that policy. Reach out to these people and ask where these issues are discussed and show up to advocate for yourself. This is part of the process of being self-directed. This is not a school assignment. It's not in the curriculum. This is real life. Depending on the state, the specific steps of unenrolling from school will be different. Some states have very little oversight and simply require your parents to write a letter saying they are pulling you out of the school system. Others are more strict and require you to write a detailed annual plan and submit it for their review. Among the unschoolers that I've spoken to, this can be frustrating, but is not insurmountable. Always verify the source of the information you are receiving about your local and state policies is up to date, because the laws frequently change. For example, Connecticut laws have recently been proposed to raise the age at which a student can unenroll themselves without their parents' permission from 17 to 18, reference 105, while the current top result in a Google search says students can unenroll at 16. Speaking of parents, your biggest obstacle in becoming an unschooler will most likely be convincing your parents to let you leave school. Each person's relationship with their parents differs, so I cannot speak to your situation directly. That being said, the three most common objections from parents are: 1. Will my kid get into college? 2. Are they going to miss something? And 3. How will I know they are learning? The first concern is the most practical one. Though you should really have a discussion about whether college is your goal in the first place, it is reasonable to not want to close yourself out to any future opportunities. The best way to address the question of college is to show your parents concrete evidence that it is possible to go to college without attending high school. First, I would recommend showing your parents the data from Peter Gray and Gina Riley's survey of grown unschoolers. This is a quick way to show them what is possible. Then, I would show them a more detailed resource, like Blake Bull's book, College Without High School, A Teenager's Guide to Skipping High School and Going to College. Blake writes, Emery Snyder entered New York University's revered Tisch School of Arts without a day of high school on her transcript. Andy Pearson never went to any school, but began part-time college courses at the University of Michigan at age 16, and soon became a full-time student. Charlotte Wagoner studies international business at Rockhurst, and Shannon Lee Clare writes plays at Princeton, each without 4 years of high school to their names. Unschooled teens have gained admissions to virtually every competitive college in the United States. These unschoolers aren't Einstein-like geniuses. They're normal teens who, unsatisfied with school's plan for their future, chose to get an education on their own terms. You can make this choice too. Reference 106. I mentioned this earlier, but it's important to be aware of one secret that unschoolers frequently tap into is enrolling in community college at an early age and transferring into a regular college later. Another trick is to take dual enrollment courses that earn you college credits and high school credits. You can think of this as taking AP courses in high school, where you are getting a high school credit, but also a college credit. While these are offered at community colleges, there are also online options you can utilize no matter where you are. For example, Tell Library offers online dual enrollment courses for about $100 for each course. Better yet, through a partnership they have with Colorado Christian University, you could pay $300 for a year membership and take unlimited online courses to earn high school credits, which can also be counted towards a full year of general college credits. You can then transfer these college credits to the university of your choosing. Reference 107. A related concern to getting into college is whether you can get a diploma. As you can imagine, if you don't go to school, there is no institution to grant you a diploma. Many unschooling families create their own diplomas, which don't really carry much weight. You can get a GED, which is a general equivalency diploma, by taking a test. The GED covers the subjects one would normally encounter in high school, like math, science, language arts, and social studies, and passing the test is equivalent to earning a high school diploma. There is also the HiSET exam, which is a newer alternative to the GED exam. The HiSET is not available in every state, so be sure to check what is available locally on the HiSET website. Reference 108. The main differences between the HiSET and GED is that the HiSET has 5 subject tests instead of 4. They have separate reading and writing tests rather than a single language arts test. And the GED is only available as a computer-based test, while the HiSET is available in a computer-based and a pencil and paper format. Reference 109. Though you will most often see statements that the HiSET and GED are only available to people over 18 years old, you can take the tests in most states if your parent verifies that you are not enrolled in high school. You can also earn an actual diploma through some unconventional approaches. For example, you can earn a diploma from Beach High School, which is a one-man high school run by former school teacher Wes Beach. Wes Beach works with young self-directed learners to create transcripts and navigate the college admissions process, and also issues diplomas. Though Beach High School is physically located in California, anyone can enroll in Beach High School regardless of their location. One caveat, the diplomas offered by Beach High School are technically not accredited. Their website issues a statement. Beach High School, while very non-traditional, provides diplomas that are just as legal and legitimate as any other diploma from any other school. You should know, however, that BHS is not accredited. There is a small risk that an institution, organization, or business will not respect the fact that your diploma comes from a non-traditional school and will not accept your diploma. This has happened in a handful of cases that I know of, and I've graduated more than 900 people. Reference 110. If you are looking for a diploma from an accredited institution, there is another option. The North Atlantic Regional High School in Maine issues accredited diplomas to teens in all 50 U.S. states. There are more requirements than Beach High School, but the accreditation brings a little more weight to your diploma. You will have to show evidence of credit hours in each subject, such that you would meet the requirements of a high school in Maine. Reference 111. They consider a credit hour to be equal to 80 hours of work. And to earn a diploma, you'll need to show evidence of an equivalent of earning the following 17.5 credits. 4 English, 2 math, 2 science with 1 lab, 1 social studies in addition to U.S. history, 1 U.S. history, 1 physical education, 1 fine arts, half a credit of computer skills, half a credit of health, 4.5 credits of electives of your choice. Reference 112. This may sound like a lot, but if you do the math of multiplying the 17.5 credits by 80 hours per credit, and then dividing that by 4 years and 52 weeks in a year, it comes out to roughly 7 hours per week of documented work. Following along with such requirements can earn you a diploma, but naturally will be more limiting in how self-directed your learning experience really becomes. As you can see, The more you try to earn credentials from a third party, the more your freedom is restricted. That being said, satisfying such prescribed credit hours may help address the second biggest concern parents bring up. How will I know we aren't missing anything? To address this concern, I suggest two main points. First, it's important to accept that nobody is retaining 100% of the information that is taught in school. It's not fair to dismiss unschooling for falling short of a goal that school is also not meeting. I understand that is a bit of a cop-out on the concern, which brings me to my second point. If your parents' main concern is about you learning the same material that you would cover in school, you could negotiate with them to obtain copies of the curriculum and pursue learning this material outside of school. Be careful not to give in too easily to your parents' fear, as this could quickly devolve into a homeschooling situation that looks like doing school at home, as opposed to a genuine self-directed learning experience. The third concern parents typically have, how will I know my child is learning, can be addressed in a variety of ways. The cynic in me wants to say you'll be able to tell your child is learning by actually having a conversation with them about the things that interest them. That should make learning self-evident. However, cynicism is rarely a satisfying answer for a parent concerned about their child's future. There are a variety of ways that one can document students' learning, and some states will actually require this to satisfy their homeschooling laws. In the absence of classes with grades given by a teacher, you can create your own portfolio that documents your learning. Online curriculum offered by websites like Khan Academy usually include tests which demonstrate mastery of each subject along the path. You could also take some community college classes that will include assignments, tests, and grades, which provide the evidence that you are as accomplished as anyone else. Many unschoolers even build websites to showcase their projects and passions through photos, videos, and writing. I have some tutorial videos on my website, jim-flannery.com, that can give you some guidance on how to build your first website. Reference 113. It's important to acknowledge that underneath this question of, how will I know my child is learning, is a more deeply rooted and unspoken question. How will I make my child learn? This, unfortunately, is the most challenging aspect and requires a combination of trust from the parent in the individual child, but also seems to involve a certain amount of trust from the parent in the world as a whole. It tends to be the most anxious and nervous parents, who want as much control over all aspects of their own life as possible, who apply this pressure and fear-based mindset to their children as well. The best resource I've found to help teens discuss unschooling with their parents is found in Chapter 10 of Grace Llewellyn's book, The Teenage Liberation Handbook, titled The Perhaps Delicate Parental Issue. Grace writes, "Fortunately, with a little care and planning, you will be able to help them see the light. Ideally, it will go well enough that your parents support and encourage you without too much entangling themselves in your hair, and become so inspired by you that their own lives become richer and braver." Reference 114. In part, it feels like a cop-out that I'm telling you to go read someone else's book for the answers. As you've noticed, my whole mantra in self-directed learning is to tap into as many resources as possible, and Grace's book is the best resource to go to for guidance on convincing your parents to let you unschool. Grace encourages young people who want to leave school to write a letter to their parents stating their position. Writing a letter is a good option when people feel intimidated by conversation because it allows you to speak fully without interruption. It also allows your parents to read it on their own without feeling pressured to give you an immediate answer in the moment. You may feel afraid to put your feelings into writing, but Grace offers some encouraging words. "I have some comfort to offer you. Unschooling generally seems to make parents into allies and friends rather than disciplinarians and authority figures. Many unschoolers told me that once they left school, all kinds of family arguments and hostilities just disappeared. It makes sense. No more quarrels about grades and homework. No more need to take revenge on parents for what happens at school." Reference 115. As an adult, I've asked my own parents how they would have felt about me leaving school as a teen. Interestingly, they felt their own academic shortcomings would have prohibited me from doing this. They felt that they were unequipped to be my teachers. It's important for your parents to realize that unschooling does not mean your parent becomes your teacher. As unschooling mother and host of the Fair the Free Child podcast, Akilah Richards, clarified in her talk at the Rooted Us conference in New York this year, we don't educate our children. We allow our children to be educated from a variety of resources. Reference 116. For more support on dealing with parents, Blake Bowles has an episode of his Off-Trail Learning podcast that covers this specific subject of talking to parents, titled Caitlin Scheel on Convincing Your Parents to Homeschool, reference 117. The best advice I can offer is that you must articulate to your parents what it is you are specifically pursuing through pursuing self-directed learning. Rather than focusing on what you are leaving behind, focus on what you are going toward. For example, one could say, I'm going to begin passionately pursuing self-directed learning so that I can take ownership of my life and control my own destiny in life. State your personal goals. And by the way, leaving school is a necessary piece to make this happen. I would recommend not using the term unschooling with your parents. Instead, use the term self-directed learning. Point them to the website for the Alliance for Self-Directed Education, which is a collaboration of credible professionals and academics that are promoting self-directed learning. Their website is at self-directed.org. Honestly, I would advise against pointing your parents to my book or any of my work. My reputation is not the most credible because I'm outspoken on a variety of sensitive issues, perform stand-up comedy, and am open about my extreme experiences with the mental health system. I don't blame parents for wanting to hear parenting advice from other parents, instead of from a psychotic entrepreneur with delusions of transforming our culture into a loving, collaborative world of enthusiastic learners. That being said, in my personal interviews with unschooling parents, I asked, if you could wave a magic wand and change anything about your experience unschooling your child, what would it be? And the answer I got was incredibly promising. The most common response from parents was that they wished they had started sooner. Another common answer I hear from parents after allowing their teen to leave school is, I finally got my real kid back. Dr. Peter Gray and Dr. Gina Riley also published a research paper in the Journal of Unschooling and Alternative Learning that surveyed parents of unschoolers, titled, The Challenges and Benefits of Unschooling, according to 232 families who have chosen that route. They concluded, the biggest challenge expressed was that of overcoming feelings of criticism or social pressure that came from others who disapproved and from their own culturally ingrained habitual ways of thinking about education. The reported benefits of unschooling were numerous. They included improved learning, better attitudes about learning, and improved psychological and social well-being for the children, and increased closeness, harmony, and freedom for the whole family. Reference 118. One of the most powerful messages I've heard offered to parents nervous about allowing their children to leave school comes from Ken Danford. Ken is the co-founder of North Star, a self-directed learning center for teens in Western Massachusetts that has been running for over 20 years. Ken was asked during an interview in 2015, what can you say to comfort parents who are afraid of ruining their child's life? And Ken replied, the one thing I'm sure of was when I was teaching 8th grade middle school, I was making some teenagers' lives worse. No matter how much I tried, they didn't understand the assignment, school made them stressed. There were some people's lives who were just made worse by going to school. And if there's one thing I'm sure of, in the 19 years of coaching teenagers to stop going to school and experiment with this approach, I have made nobody's life worse, not one. We don't help everybody. The model doesn't click for everybody. But we've made nobody's life worse. You cannot mess up your life by opting out of high school. It will not be worse. And the odds of it being better, instead of simply muddling along until graduating, are really high. Getting out of school and experimenting with life is going to be more interesting and more enriching and more productive than muddling along and getting your traditional high school diploma with whatever grades you choose to get. It's just an open and shut case. There is no risk. There really is not a risk. The risk is, conversely, watching your teenagers shut down, watching your teenagers withdraw, watching teenagers in what could be the prime of their lives, just putting in time and waiting for it to be over. That's the risk. Reference 119. No matter how many articles or books your parents read about unschooling, they will ultimately receive the most reassurance from speaking directly to other parents. They can dive into a conversation with other unschooling parents on countless Facebook groups. They can join groups such as Unschooling Mom to Mom, Unschooling Connection, Unschooling Q&A, and Homeschooling, Unschooling, Uncollege, etc. There are global communities of unschoolers, including unschoolers with many years under their belt or those who are brand new to it. Your parents can also find local groups in your area to meet unschooling parents face-to-face through Unschooling Mom to Mom's Find Local Groups section. Reference 120. More recently, the Alliance for Self-Directed Education also started building a listing for local groups and conferences that are worth checking. Reference 121. Try not to get discouraged if your parents don't accept your decision right away. For many self-directed learners, getting your parents to agree to let you leave school is one of the most challenging parts of the process. That being said, it is also an important one. You will want your parents to support your decision, because being surrounded by naysayers and people criticizing you will bring you down in the long run. That's not to say it can't be done, but please, work hard to support your parents, because the value of having supportive parents cannot be overstated. Also, because you're officially a self-directed learner now, your job is to find ways to accomplish tasks to fulfill your goals and dreams. You should consider persuading your parents to be one of your first big projects. When speaking to them, talk with them about your goals and what goals they have in mind for you. Are you aiming for college, the military, to start a business, go into the arts, or something else? This will give you an idea as to where their hang-ups are and what specific objections and concerns they have. If you are able to find common ground and see that you ultimately have the same goal of creating a life that is happy and fulfilling, and for you to be able to financially support yourself one day, you'll make a lot more progress than focusing on your differences. It's also important to be clear that you are not leaving school so that you can create school at home, but so that you can do something truly meaningful with your education. You may also want to negotiate with them a period of deschooling, whereby you all agree they won't bother you with schooly-related ideas for a certain period of time. This will ensure that you won't leave school and then have your parents breathing down your neck, constantly monitoring you, asking you every day what you learned and did, and ultimately have them turn into your new principal and prison guard. I've heard some unschooling parents say that it takes 1 month of deschooling for every year of school that their child attends. My personal perspective is that deschooling is an ongoing journey that we must constantly revisit because society tends to reinforce many of the ideas that school perpetuates. One can never completely escape schooly concepts. One teen, Dylan Marcus, who attended public school before becoming an unschooler, shared in an interview I did with him last year that his experience with deschooling took over a year. It had been a year since I was out of public school, and I was still getting used to not being at school, still having a mindset of, I have to do something now. I have to be on Khan Academy every single day, not because I wanted to, but because I thought I had to. Reference 122. The deschooling process is not just a process for the teen. It's also a process for the parent to shed themselves of school-related misconceptions about learning and life. For example, Carrie McDonald, in her article, How to Deschool Yourself for Success and Satisfaction, highlights 6 common myths that we are taught in school which must be unlearned. Number 1, color inside the lines. Number 2, ask for permission. Number 3, be quiet and stay still. Number 4, don't read ahead. Number 5, winners never quit. Number 6, failure is unacceptable. Reference 123. Talking to your parents about this subject will not necessarily be easy, but there's a lot to be gained from doing difficult things. As entrepreneur Tim Ferriss wrote in his book, The 4-Hour Workweek, a person's success in life can usually be measured by the number of uncomfortable conversations he or she is willing to have. Reference 124. Accomplishing the task of persuading your parents will prepare you for future tasks where you may need to persuade people. In the near future, you may be persuading someone to mentor you, a college to accept you, or an employer to hire you. Don't back down from the challenge. Lean into it. Learning to persuade others is a valuable skill, not just for salespeople, but for any career path you choose. In author Daniel Pink's book, To Sell is Human, he explains, physicians sell patients on a remedy. Lawyers sell juries on a verdict. Teachers sell students on the value of paying attention in class. Entrepreneurs woo funders. Writers sweet-talk producers. Coaches cajole players. Whatever our profession, we deliver presentations to fellow employees and make pitches to new clients. We try to convince the boss to loosen up a few dollars from the budget or the human resources department to add more vacation days. Reference 125. If you are struggling to convince your parents about allowing you to become an unschooler, or if you don't feel fully prepared to embark on self-directed learning on your own, don't fret. Our next chapter is going to talk about innovative learning centers, where self-directed learners come together under one roof to explore their interests together. Since these places can sometimes feel like school, attending a self-directed learning center may be a more digestible approach for both you and your parents to allow you to get started on your self-directed learning journey.